In October of 2019, WWE released WWE 2K20. Literally, this game was a precursor of the real 2020 to come. It's like 2K knew 2020 was going to be an awful year for everyone and just decided, oh well, the year's going to be crap anyways, so let's just make our game absolute ass too. A global pandemic is going to break out, the world's going to be in complete disarray, and interest in wrestling is going to be nearing an all-time low, so let's put zero effort into this game. This game is the worst game in wrestling history. Find me a glitch or error that hasn't happened in this game. At least it broke a record for something. The gameplay was horrid, the mechanics sucked, and the story mode was confusing and no fun. You seriously think I want to hear my guy singing about getting a Raw contract? Absolutely not. Gone are the prime days for WWE games. All the fun, button mashing, and craziness is now gone, and we're instead given a simulation, and a poor one at that. In this video, I'll take a look at the rise and fall of the WWE 2K series. Now, I'll preface this by saying you could argue that the WWE 2K series hasn't risen at all, but that's besides the point. Alright, let's go back into the Wayback Machine to the days of SmackDown vs. Raw before we talk about 2K. The SmackDown vs. Raw franchise produced some of the greatest wrestling video games ever, some which will never be replicated, from the soundtracks, the menu screens, and the overall roster and fun it delivered to many of us. Some of my greatest memories are from playing GM mode and getting my ass kicked by the CPU. We've been delivered games such as No Mercy, Day of Reckoning, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, WWE All-Stars, and WWE 2K20. One of these things is not like the other. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 was the last game produced under the SmackDown vs. Raw franchise, and it was a good one. The SmackDown vs. Raw franchise lasted 6 years from 2006 to 2011. When the SmackDown vs. Raw series was ended, in came WWE 12. They simply named it WWE 12. The new game looked pretty sick, the character models were improved, and the gameplay was a lot smoother. Some even said it was the best wrestling game ever made. They introduced us to their new Predator technology engine, which they claimed made everything in the game better. But as much as they advertised the game as all new and revamped, it just really wasn't there. You could argue that it was just patchwork on SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 with some better paint jobs on the characters and some little minor adjustments. The game played very well and gave us all a sense of the actual WWE programming from TV. The road to WrestleMania was fun and the graphics were great. There was a great variety of modes and creation options. The following year came WWE 13, the last game to be published by THQ before the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, thus leaving behind a 14-year relationship with WWE and everything surrounding their games. This game had a focus on the Attitude Era. It replaced Road to WrestleMania with an Attitude Era mode where you could choose from 6 different Attitude Era storylines. This game received great reviews and was even nominated for a Best Individual Game award. It continued to push its Predator technology engine, which it hyped up so much in WWE 12. They said this engine would offer up more fluid animations, fixing odd collisions, and offering up 300 new moves. This game got an 8.5 from IGN. I think I agree with this rating a bit more than what WWE 12 got at a 9.0. I don't think the roster was the greatest, but it was still a playable game. Road to WrestleMania was missing and you could really feel that. For me, the Attitude Era mode just didn't do it because I wanted to have that storyline to play and lose my sleep over. Now it was time for 2K to take over. As THQ had filed for bankruptcy, WWE needed a new company to produce their yearly game. In came 2K to the rescue. This game was still developed by Yuke's, but 2K just took on the publishing part. So WWE 2K14 was released in 2013. This game was actually amazing. It was the last WWE game made for the 7th generation of consoles as Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 drew towards the end of their shelf life. And this was a great way to send them off. This game was a perfect mix of arcade and simulation. This game had a great roster from superstars from different generations. We had Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Ric Flair, and current superstars like CM Punk, John Cena, and the debut of The Shield. Only fitting that The Rock was on the cover for such a legendary game. Create a Story mode was still available for the final time in a WWE game. I really want them to add this feature back because the amount of just stupid stuff I did on Create a Story was ridiculous. This game is probably the most complete game released in recent WWE games. Well, we're not setting a high bar here with WWE 2K20, but we'll get onto that in a bit. This game had an amazing 30 years of WrestleMania mode where you could relive classic moments from the showcase of the Immortals. The amount of work that was put into this mode was amazing. It gave us an arena for every WrestleMania that you were able to play in this game. This game was still a THQ game though, under 2K branding however. What a way for THQ to go out. This game just embodies everything a wrestling game should be. It's fun, it's creative, and you have freedom. THQ went out, but they went out in a great way. They left behind a huge legacy with WWE with some hits and some misses along the way, but one thing is for sure, they enthralled an entire generation of wrestling fans with their video games. The future looked bright if this was just the beginning for 2K and the WWE titles. The next year, 2K took over for real, and man, here it was time. The company that gave us the brilliance of NBA 2K was now gonna give us our favorite wrestling game. Would this end up being quite possibly the best wrestling game ever? Would the graphics be nuts? Would they add a bunch of new features and bring in lapsed players? Would we finally get the return of GM mode? The answer to all that is no. This game was bad. This game was 2K20 before 2K20. This game was atrocious. Yes, the graphics looked better than the games that had succeeded it, but upon release, this thing was a disaster. The 2K Showcase mode was introduced. Now, this didn't really come up to par with the amazing 30 years of WrestleMania from the previous year, but it was still okay. It takes a good look at the Triple H and Shawn Michaels and CM Punk and John Cena rivalry. The collision detection was completely garbage, but it still looked good. When this released on the next generation of consoles, the gameplay was a lot better. The roster was very small and the amount of modes and features were pretty sparse in the game. In this year's game, 2K focused on starting a new generation which focuses on turning the series into a true wrestling game rather than a fighting game with wrestlers in it, if that makes any sense. They implemented the chain wrestling minigame and made the mechanics more move-based rather than punch and throw. They also took out the breaking point submission, which when I got trapped in, ain't no chance I was getting out. I was the type of dude to have an amazing match and lose to a headlock. The selling in this game was much better too, as the superstars wouldn't just immediately stand up. This game took some steps forward, proving that they were trying to do what they wanted to do, and that's making a realistic wrestling game. While the style might not fit everyone, it's 2K's model. Look at NBA 2K. You're not just gonna have someone running at super speed for no reason. They want to create a real, close to the real thing as possible experience, and this would only evolve in the years to come. I'd be remiss not to talk about my career mode in this game. It was just a bunch of random matches that had no flow to the gameplay. It was patchwork my career to say the least. Let's move on to the next year, the final time the 2K series would be released for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, WWE 2K16. Surely this thing couldn't be worse than 2K15, and it wasn't. They had time to fix up everything that made WWE 2K15 underwhelming. They improved the hit detection, they changed up the My Career mode, and tried to give it a revamp. The year before with WWE 2K15, 2K took the gamble to make the game a full simulation, and in 2K16 they doubled down on it. It turned out to be great in my opinion. This is one of my favorite in the 2K series, and in my opinion it's pretty underrated. As I mentioned how the previous game had a small roster and not the most gameplay options, 2K16 fixed both those issues. They gave us a ton of superstars to choose from past, present, and even added more NXT talent into the fold. The knock on 2K15 was the amount of features, and 2K16 gave you that and gave you more freedom to do stuff. 2K Showcase was focused on the career of Stone Cold, where you can relive memories of days past. It looked amazing, the promos, videos, and unlockables were all great. Now to 2K17. Like I mentioned before, when 2K transitioned over into the next generation of consoles, it had to cut back on some features, and this game helped slowly bring everything back in. This game was an improvement year. It's kinda like a fine-tuning game rather than a polished up game. The game was used as a year which 2K tried some things to build a finer product for the future years. This game just felt like a modern wrestling game should. The gameplay felt good and it was more decision based. The hit mechanics improved quite a bit in this year's installment. Multi-man matches were less awkward and made it easier to switch from one opponent to the other. Career mode was okay, but it just didn't feel like what it could have. The general progression to becoming a WWE superstar just didn't feel right even at the time. It's something you can still play and will keep you busy and does offer up a larger variety. You can now cut your own promos, but that's all lip sync pre-made lines for you. Backstage brawls returned and added more variety to this game. This game was solid and was just meat and potatoes as what a WWE game should have. It was good to see 2K starting to understand the vision they had for this game. Now, I know it's not for everyone, but 2K was trying to hit all its main features on the head before really adding more. You have to perfect basics before you get into the complicated stuff. Another installment of the game which looks like steps forward in creating the ultimate simulation style. This brings us to the following year, 2017, where WWE would release WWE2K18. A new graphics engine made the game look arguably the best ever. This game delivered, I think. It was another year where 2K nailed what they wanted to get out, and that was the wrestling game, which was close or up to par with what we saw on TV. There's nothing particularly new in this game, but it's the best version of itself, if that makes any sense. Yes, I understand this new sim style they were going for wasn't for everyone, and it drew many fans to stop playing, but when you look at it, it had all come together pretty well. The roster was bigger than ever with 174 playable characters, and I thought the story mode was a complete screw up, to be honest. It sees you go from rags to riches as you rise to WrestleMania stardom, but it's just unpolished. They had the idea of what they were going for, but it just didn't hit. It's like Bruce Pritchard wrote this game's promo and interactive dialogue. The promos are also boring, like who wants to read that much? Some of the notable additions were the ability to lift and carry opponents in different ways, and different ways of attacking opponents. This year's creation suite was great and deserves its due. This was basically another year for universe mode and the slow death it died. Basically the same thing as every year and nothing really different to set it apart from the other games. This had become the constant with WWE games. What was once a fun and creative idea had now become stale and needs an overhaul. Overall, this game had so much potential, but it just wasn't polished up enough. It needed to stay in development for a bit longer and it could have hit a home run, but as they need to release a title each year, it really suffered from that annual release date curse. I'd say the next year was probably the best polished game so far, WWE 2K19. This game was much the same of the years previous, but 5 years on, 2K had finally polished up what they were trying to achieve for years. As 2K went for a real simulation game, I really think they did achieve that. This game felt like the closest thing to a WWE match. We had come a long way from when 2K took over the series, and all the button mashing was really gone. As I mentioned before, when 2K took over, they wanted to make this game a full simulation and the closest thing to a real-life WWE match. So all the games that followed were always a risk. Every single year they released a game was a step forward, and a risky one at that. This game was a step forward. The gameplay was fun and smooth, the storyline was good and very enjoyable as you start from BCW and work your way up to WWE. The customization was there like most years in WWE, and Universe mode was once again added because we just can't get enough of it. Overall, 2K19 was a great game and one which holds up as probably the best 2K game released under the WWE banner. But you know what they say, one step forward, two steps back. The next year came WWE 2K20. I don't even know where to start with this one. This game was filled with so many glitches, the character models looked awful, the gameplay sucked, and this game was a complete disaster. For many gamers, this installment in the 2K series was it. This had broken some of the biggest 2K gamers to the point where even the ones who had some sort of tie to 2K just couldn't justify saying anything good about this game. This game was and is a complete failure and will be looked upon as the death of WWE 2K games. So many fans were already annoyed with the simulation style and lack of added new features on the yearly. But this game just did it in. I don't even understand how you go from years of improvement to this colossal failure. The story behind what really happened is this. In between the development process, Yuke's decided to part ways with WWE after a long tenure. Yuke's was partnered with WWE for nearly 20 years and responsible for some of the best WWE games ever delivered. Yuke's had a belief that the series had become stale and wanted to take WWE games in a different direction. They weren't wrong about thinking this. This really piques my interest in what we could have gotten with Yuke's as a developer. Yuke's wanted to change up WWE, but they weren't so keen on that as the game that they were producing already was an instant cash grab. The end to this partnership led to Visual Concepts becoming the new developer of the series, now only having a few months to crank out the next game. You could obviously tell Visual Concepts weren't familiar with what they were doing, and the sales were a clear indication of that. Pretty quickly, you started to see this game in the reduced section because of its horrible reviews and terrible gameplay. Even in the lead up to the game's release, there wasn't much information released, which was a concern for so many 2K gamers. IGN said it best when they said, WWE 2K19 looked like it had stopped the downwards trend for the series, but WWE 2K20 doubles back, breaks its ankles, and tumbles down the slope. That is the truest quote I have probably ever seen. Following the game's release, even WWE were reluctant to mention it on their TV programming. Usually they're always plugging it, and it's usually sponsoring a pay-per-view at least once, but even they knew that the game was beyond saving. For many gamers, this was it. This was the point of no return. They had severely disappointed all of us by releasing this half-assed game. Honestly, I don't know where to begin. Gamers shelled out their hard-earned cash for this game, and it wasn't even playable one bit. This game literally marked the death of the 2K series, and how 2K let this be released is beyond my realm of comprehension. Now, 2K have stated that they will be skipping WWE 2K21 and instead releasing WWE Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds is an arcade-style wrestling game with absolute ridiculousness and is comparable to 2K Playgrounds. I think them skipping a year is great. A wrestling game shouldn't be released every year, and them taking time off to let the heat die down is great. While 2K Battlegrounds should be an alright game, it's not going to be the full game we're used to yearly, and will have a much smaller roster. With 2K skipping a year, they really need to nail 2K22 on its head. Not even really need to, they have to nail the next WWE game. I said it before that the series may be beyond the point of saving, and the only way to do that is to deliver wrestling fans a well-polished game. They need to overhaul this game in a massive way. Give us GM mode, give us create a story, give us ridiculousness, give us some SmackDown Here Comes the Pain type of craziness. It's a wrestling game. This isn't a sport. This is the only place where you can be innovative and creative in what types of modes and gameplays you present to us. Something like GM mode would be an instant cash grab anyways, as so many lapsed fans would grab the game just to play that, and that's a step forward on its own. It's remained to be seen how 2K and Visual Concepts will do, but they really shot themselves in the foot with the release of WWE 2K20 and how they questioned our intelligence. Like, they really thought that you were gonna buy this game regardless, just because the WWE title was on it. Like, this game is so bad that some of their own developers and workers quit because they didn't want to have this on their track record. As I discussed, gone are the days of SmackDown vs. Raw and the early WWE series. 2K took so many risks to make their game into a simulation style, and that's fine. It really wasn't that bad. They just need to deliver on it after what they've shown they can do with some of their recent releases. Wrestling is nuts. That's what we all love about it. It's unpredictable and crazy. 2K needs to take a look at that and give us that. Think about any of your favorite games and take out the wackiness or jumping from high structures, and it's just not the same. A massive overhaul is needed for 2K to revive this series, and I don't know if they will. There have been polls put out asking fans what they want to see in the next installment of the game, and the production team has changed up a bit as well. This is a good sign, as it shows that they want to know what the fans want and are really keen to deliver what the fans want in their next game. Safe to say 2K22 must deliver, or else this may be the end of WWE games forever under the 2K banner. Even a bug-free game won't be enough. It's gonna need a lot of the bells and whistles to revive what was once a yearly exciting game. And that is it for this one, guys. That is the rise and fall of the WWE 2K series. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite WWE game is down below in the comments. Smash that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.